Well, it's just been the hottest day of the year so far, and now look at this coming in. That's the beginning of a thunderstorm, that is. And what better thing to do when a thunderstorm comes along than go back indoors and build a big, complicated model of some sort or another. Well, maybe not a big one, but, you know, let's go in. Actually, if it starts thundering, I'm probably going to come out, aren't I? Let's face it. Oh, they're good fun. Now, we've got one of these by this company. I'm not very familiar with these. In fact, before I bought the model, I never heard of them. And I do not know Mr. Hobby Kits Craft, or is it Mr. Craft Hobby Kits? Don't really know that either. But I kind of lie about the aeroplane because there's another company who's virtually the same, with virtually the same box graphics. I can't remember they might be called something like Mr. Box. And they did a version of this and I made it and I lost all the film. So I'll show you that aircraft and then we'll have a think about the aircraft and then we'll make this one. They're all very simple and I've found with the other one that the transfers fall apart in the bold. So that's going to be taxing to say the least. The other one had better box art as well, which is a great shame. Anyway, here we go. Oh, let's take the lid off. Come on. Let's have a look inside. I know I've sprayed some of it. I did it a couple of years ago and then lost the whole thing. So now I've found it. And so we will make it. There it is. That looks grim, doesn't it? Because I sprayed the black parts in the box. So I was going for a black underside. They do about 4 different versions of this aircraft. And you get relatively different colour schemes with different markings. All of them basically green with either a blue or a black underside. But on the side of the box, you get a camouflaged one. And they don't give you any information about that at all. So I wouldn't know. I couldn't take it any further than this unless I look on the internet. But I want to do one with a black underside. Obviously, I've done it now, so I'll stick with that. That's the artwork from the other box. We'll look at that model later, I think. Moving on, got the wings together, fuselage is glued together, tail. But look, you get an other type of tail, which suggests you get a different version of the aircraft, although it's not pointed out there, which means perhaps you don't put these on and somehow that's your tail. Anyway, so I don't have sufficient details for that little game. Maybe I should look this aircraft up. It's proving more interesting than I at first imagined. It's also worth mentioning at this point, now I've got the wings on and the tail on, that all the way down the dorsal line, nothing fitted until you get to there. Although really that needs a bit of a trim. And I was going to sand it down, but to be quite honest, that would have taken a month of Sundays. So I've sliced the section off, so you can see the seams. The paint, I was just finishing off a pot, and I thought, I wonder how much coverage I can get out of it. Obviously not enough. So it's going for a respray. But do you know, I do like that very, very uneven surface. If it had been a bit thicker, I'd have left it, because it's like the first layer towards some heavy weathering, but it just wasn't good enough. And with that, so I've stuffed some tissue in the various holes and we should get something out of it. A couple of sprays of green and we should be there. Smoother but a bit less interesting. I think this is the best outcome though, really, wasn't it? And the dorsal section is pretty much there. A little bit rough on the bit between the two canopy things. Oh, I'm tired. I think I need to go to bed. God blimey. So I went to bed, got up the next morning, carried on with the model and forgot to film any of it. So we're going to jump almost directly to the completed model. I do apologise. It's been dogged with problems, the model itself and the filmmaking, so consider this a kind of disasters film in many ways. So in fairness to the aircraft itself, let's have a quick read of the stuff in the instructions leaflet. So here we go. On perfecting construction of version P37A, production of P37B2 was started to meet the needs of the Polish Air Force. The main difference was the installation of Bristol Pegasus 20915 horsepower engine and double fins. So there we go. I knew there was something going on with the tail fins, wasn't I? The delivery started in spring 1938. So these are just scraping in before the Second World War. It goes on to list many of its victories. They dropped 120,000 bombs in the early months of the Second World War. They brought down 5 aircraft, including 2 Messerschmitt Bf-110s and one 109, one Heinkel 111, and they went on to harass ground troops. They lost 26 aircraft during that time, and as the Soviets were pushing into Poland as well, the Polish found they had to move their aircraft elsewhere and were taking them to Romania, so that'll explain the Romania markings. But also, because the Russians were moving so fast, several of the aircraft accidentally landed on landing strips that they hadn't realised had been taken over by the Soviet army. So the Soviets got hold of them, and this says the Soviet experts were very impressed by modern construction and were subject to flight tests showing its advantage to any Soviet bomber in this time. There we go. Good aircraft, bad model. Mind you, this Polish version, the one I made first, because I made it first, I haven't actually made it as well. So, despite all the problems, this one is actually a better bit of work by me, particularly things like the canopy. Although the canopy markings are a bit vague, and I've seen different illustrations of it in which the kind of canopy frame is either thick or thin. And as it's a bit of a pre-war job and it's of a certain kind of vintage and style, it seems likely that they're a bit more architectural and a little bit bigger. And I do like that. This is all part of my pre-war love of the interwar wonders. So on both of them, I admit I've intentionally made the frames a little bit bigger than perhaps they should be. So we need to get further back on both of them, really. Never mind. We need something a bit more joyous now, don't we? Let's hope the next model doesn't go so disastrously. So thanks for watching. It was a small scrappy film of a slightly odd little model of a nice aircraft. I'll leave you with shots of the lightning, the inevitable shots of lightning, and one in particular, look out for it. is of that German artillery piece from a while ago. Was it 37mm, 35? Silhouetted by the lightning, which was more luck than judgment. Thanks again. See you soon.